The FIDE World Chess Cup is underway. In this video, I am going to focus on the matchup between Ravi Haria versus Etienne Bacrot. Ravi Haria is 22 years old, from England. IM rating 2440. I think his peak rating was 2463. Etienne Bacrot, 38 years old, French number 2. His rating is 2678 and peak rating 2749. In the classical games is 1-1. Yesterday, Ravi scored a very unexpected victory with the black pieces. Today is the playoffs. First up, we get 2 rapid games. If that's a tie, then we get Blitz and Armageddon. So let's check out these 2 rapid games now. First up, Haria has white, Bacrot has black. Knight f3, already a surprise, perhaps. In the previous games, in this tournament, Ravi has played e4, but now we get knight f3. d5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, c6, and now c4. Take, castle, knight d7. This is a nice way to play. You don't need to play b5 now. I would consider this move almost to be a strategical error, because with this pawn structure, it's just so weak. White can actually attack it with moves like a4 and b3. The knight can move, and now the bishop is very active. Also, this is going to be a target. So this is a nice way to play against this structure. Knight d7, knight a3. Ravi plans to get a pawn back straight away. Knight b6, you defend. Knight e5, attack. h5. Planning to go h4, open up the h file, creating some counter chances. h5 is very effective when there is no longer a knight on f3. That's why Etienne played h5 and Ravi reacted with h4. Another way to continue is just to ignore it, just to get your pawn back, and then play this structure, h4 and maybe something like d4. And if take, you take back with the f-pawn, and then the game goes on. h5 played, h4. Bishop e6, so black has 1, 2 on it, and so does white, both his knights. Now he gets a third piece on it, queen c2. But black gets a third piece to defend it, and guess what? Believe it or not, knight f3, now queen back, knight e5, queen d4, knight f3, a repetition. 20 minutes for white, 18 minutes for black. So Ravi, he decided to go for an early repetition with the white pieces. Perhaps Ravi, he was very unfamiliar with this kind of position, and he felt Bacrot would understand it better than he did. That's the only reason I can see him taking a repetition, because with the white pieces, you've got to fight for an advantage, but he felt uncomfortable. Or maybe the truth is, Ravi, he's just looking ahead to the next game. He's expecting Etienne to play e4 against. We're going to get a French defense, and then we're going to see his preparation. So we're going to check that out very soon. Now, if you have to play for a win with white here, you need to play b3. This is going to be a pawn sacrifice. Take, take. And with this knight is going to come to c4. The bishop is now on this diagonal. And white can actually get these pawns rolling very fast. So in this position, if b3, take, take. So we're going to look at the second playoff game very soon. So it's up to you. You can fast forward now. Just check out the timer in the bottom right corner, or you can stick around for this discussion. g6, knight c4. This is a cool move actually, because the a file is open. Even though white is down a pawn, he's got some chances. So after knight c4, if you take, take. A couple of pawns on the queen side, they are targets, and white can actually build his position. That can go, bishop can go to b2, d4, e4. Let's go. Let's just get these pawns rolling, and there's definitely compensation. Now, if you don't take, let's say you go knight d5, I think white's pieces are just swarming in. There's so much compensation here. Knight g5 is possible, knight e5 is possible, and also e4 with d4 as well. So many options. If you go knight e5, d4, e4, a lot of compensation. Draw in the first rapid game. Let's check out the next game now. This time Bacrot has white, Haria has black. e4, e6, d4, d5. We get the French defense yesterday. Bacrot played the exchange variation, knight c3 this time. The critical line. One of the critical tests against the French defense. Knight f6 and now bishop g5. I think there are 3 main moves in this position. You can take and go bishop e7, something like this. You can go bishop b4. You pin me, I pin you. You can also go bishop e7, but today Ravi surprised Bacrot with h6. This is a huge surprise. If we look at the database, there are only 18 games out of about 6,000 or so in this line. h6, it looks like it blunders a pawn. This could be a wonderful piece of opening preparation. Now, I have a feeling Ravi, he's checking out the games from all the other rounds, and he saw Bobby Cheng from Australia play this. That's why when he played h6, I wasn't actually that surprised, because I saw Bobby Cheng play it. GM from Australia. Now, what's the idea of h6? After take, e takes d5. White has won a pawn, but black has compensation. Bishop b4, you pin the knight to the king. Bishop c4, keeping the pawn. Another option is actually bishop b5 check. And I have a feeling Ravi prepared something like this, giving black some dynamic options. You don't go bishop d7 or knight d7, you go c6. And after take, that's the interesting thing. You take with a pawn, bishop moves, and then castle, knight f3, c5. And in this kind of position, black has created an imbalance. He's down a pawn, but he's got pressure in the center, and all his pieces are coming in the game. Rook d8. The bishop can come to b7. There's pressure on d4, and black can actually ruin his structure with bishop takes c3. So maybe this is what Ravi had in mind. After bishop b5 check, we actually play c6, but bishop c4 played. Castle, knight e2, and now take on d5. You can only take with the bishop, and now rook d8. Pressure in the center. Castle. Now the bishop can move away, and looks like white's just up a pawn. That might be true. In this position, knight c6 was played. Remember, both sides start with 25 minutes on the clock. Now Ravi has 17 minutes, and Etienne, he's really gained about a minute, so he's got 26 minutes. Knight c6 played. One other option is actually bishop c3. Now, this doesn't look that good at all, because you're just giving up the bishop here. You're down a pawn. Why are you trading pieces? It's because after knight c3, to defend the bishop, now you go knight c6. There's pressure here, and there's no good way to actually defend it. You take with a pawn, and now black actually has some dynamic options. d4 is under attack. c5 is a pawn break, so then the rook actually faces the queen. The bishop can actually hop. The bishop can actually go to a6 or f5. So that was one option. Back to the game, knight c6 played. Now the problem is, Etienne now retreats his bishop, and after take, black has 3 on it. But the difference is, you can take with a pawn. If we go back a few moves, in this position, take, you have to take with a knight, because you need to defend your bishop. You can't do this. So that is a big difference. Knight c6, bishop back, so black ruins his structure, even though he's down a pawn. We keep playing. Bishop g4. Black has 10 minutes. White has 15 minutes. One cool option here is actually b5. A dynamic option. The idea is to just go for it, to break white's structure. If you go a4, b4 is next. And it looks like black's actually got a lot of compensation. This structure is going to break. You can put your bishop on a6. And there's continuous pressure from the queen, knight, rook on d4. So that's actually one interesting option. b5, wow. So you actually got to play a3, and then the game goes on. Maybe black can go a5, or now get the bishop out to f5 or g4. Bishop g4 played. Queen out the way. So then the knight can now actually move. Knight e7. Knight g3. So white's now getting his pieces in the game, and I guess white's a pawn up. This has not worked out well for Ravi. Knight d5, rook e1. Knight f4, attack the queen. Queen goes to e3. Now rook e8. You attack the queen, but you block with knight e4. And Ravi's pieces are actually in a little bit of trouble. After knight e4, you attack the queen. Queen f5, and after f3, that bishop is trapped. If you go bishop h5, g4 now wins it. If you take, there's mate on g2, and there's only one way to stop it, with queen g3. After f3, Ravi now set a trap with bishop h3. 5 minutes 41 versus 7 minutes 48. If you take, which is a blunder, queen g6 check. And you cannot stop mate on g2 unless you block with the knight, but then you lose your queen. This was Ravi's idea, but after bishop h3, white doesn't have to react in this way. He goes g4. And the problem is, the queen has to defend the knight, but it can't. That's the problem. So the queen moves back to g6. Same problem here, you can't do this. Take, because you block with queen g3. After g4, the queen has to go back to g6. You lose your knight. As a result, what happens? White has knight and bishop for the rook. And in these kind of middle games, the knight and bishop control so many squares. White is basically winning. Rook e7, king f2, rook e8, h4. Starting an attack. a5, a4, queen c6, g5. Attack. King out the way, rook g1. There's not much black can do. Queen g6, take, 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 take. And with this transition, White now has a winning endgame. Bishop c4, coming round to d3. Rook g8 offering a trade. The problem is, take, take. All these trades work out in White's favour. Knight g3, knight is coming to f5. Attacking h6 and the rook. 57 seconds for black. 2 minute 37 for white. c6, knight f5. Rook c7, knight takes pawn check. You may be asking, why didn't he go king h7 to defend the pawn after knight here? Rook d7. It's because of bishop d3. That's the really cool thing. Now there's no good way to defend the pawn. Well, you could actually move it, but now you've got this cool move, knight d6 check. Discovery from the bishop, then you're going to take on here, and then you're going to take on there as well. Knight g3, c6, knight f5, rook c7, check, king f8, knight back. This is now runner. b5. Opening up the c file, but no. No need to give black any chance. Bishop b3, take, take, rook b7, coming in, knight d6, rook b2, knight e4. Everything guarded. Bishop defends pawn, knight defends pawn. This is a runner, king can come in slowly. Rook a2, knight c5. Rook a3, bishop b3. No chance for black. Rook a1, king e3, rook h1, bishop a4, going after that pawn, take, take. Rook h1, d5, rook d1, king back. And after king d2, Ravi had enough. No chance to stop. No way to stop white queening. If we played on a few more moves, let's say rook g1, d6, check, king up. d7 is next. And the knight can help out with the queening square. And there's no way you can stop it. If you try and find a way to come back, d7, king here, knight b7. And after this, game over. Get a queen, get it off, and white is totally winning. A bishop and a pawn up. Final score between Haria and Bacrot. 1-1 in the classical, 1.5 half to Bacrot in the rapid. Here's the final table showing that. Let me know in the comments below what games you want me to cover in the World Cup, because there are just so many to pick from. And I bet there were so many brilliant games that I did not even have a chance to look at. So please comment below. If you enjoyed this video, why not give it a like and subscribe to the channel at the same time. By the way, here's YouTube's suggestion for what to watch next, but you might not like their option. If not, you might want to see how Ravi beat a 26-08 Russian GM on the first day of the World Cup. If you've seen that one, you might actually want to watch how Ravi beat Etienne Bacrot with the black pieces. No one expected him to do that. Thanks for watching.